So we're going to do some reading workbook pages together on chronological order and problem and solution. So it says a chronological text structure tells events in order they happen. The structure can include dates, times, and words such as first, next, and later. A problem solution text structure describes problems and solutions. This structure can include words such as challenge, problem, and solution. To compare text structures can help you understand the structures and their purposes. So we have two passages, and we're going to look for the structure and the purpose of each passage. So we're going to start with just the first passage. We're going to ignore the second passage for a minute and just focus on the first passage. The Space Shuttle Discovery made its first flight in 1984. In 1990, Discovery launched the Hubble Space Telescope. In 2011, after 30 missions, Discovery was taken out of service. Discovery then became a display at the National Air and Space Museum. So now we're going to look at just that passage, and we're going to do the chart on the following page. So the first section of the chart says the author's purpose. So why did the author write that first passage? Well, he probably wanted to inform us about space missions or the shuttle Discovery. The text structure he used, you should have picked out, was chronological order. And the evidence is because all those years that he said. He said 1984, 1990, 2011, after 30 missions. All right? So he wanted to tell us about this shuttle Discovery. It was chronological order. And here we have those dates. All right, now we're going to look at passage 2. Like us, astronauts use ordinary toothpaste, a toothbrush, and a little bit of water. The challenge, however, is that they don't have a sink for rinsing out their mouths. Their solution? They spit the toothpaste into a washcloth. Interesting. Well, look there. The challenge, which challenge is another word for problem, and their solution, how do they solve their problem? Spit into a washcloth. So that is problem and solution text structure. Why did the author write the second passage? Probably to tell us how astronauts brush their teeth. The text structure was problem and solution, and we know that because it used the word challenge and solution. Explain how astronauts solved the problem of not having a sink. It was problem and solution. It says the challenge and their solution. We're going to do a similar thing on page 204. We're going to read one passage at a time, and as we do, we're going to underline one sentence in each that tells what the passage is about, and circle words or phrases that show the text structure. So we're just going to do one passage at a time. The first passage is called The First Victory of the Space Race. The space race refers to a time when the United States and the former Soviet Union competed for superiority in space exploration. So we have the first sentence underlined because that is what they're telling us about. That is the topic, telling us about space exploration. It began in 1954 when scientists called on the world's governments to put the first satellites into orbit around the Earth. The United States answered the call first, declaring in July 1955 that it would launch satellites by 1958. The Soviet Union quickly promised to launch its own satellites. Engineers in both nations raced to build satellites and the rockets to carry them. The Soviet Union won the first round of the space race, putting a 185-pound satellite called Sputnik into orbit on October 4, 1957. As Sputnik orbited the planet, Americans could only look up and wonder, might their nation lose the space race? So we have all of these years and months that are circled because they tell us time. We also have words like time, first, when, began. All of those are clues that let us know this is sequencing or chronological order. So that is our text structure. We already have our purpose underlined to tell about space exploration. And then the evidence of the text structure is these years that we circled. So while we have it here, now we need to go to our chart to put it on our chart. So in the chart, the purpose to tell about the space exploration or space race, it is chronological, and the evidence we have for that are the dates that we circled, so you would list the dates. Everything we underline or circle is just being organized into our chart. The hazards of space junk, our second passage. Space junk is what humans leave behind from trips into orbit around the Earth. So this passage is going to tell us about space junk. Some junk, such as old satellites and rocket parts, is large, but most junk is less than a centimeter long. Pebbles of ice, flecks of paint, and bits of metal. Just as junk on the road threatens cars, space junk is a problem, keyword, for spaceships. You might think that large pieces are more dangerous than small ones, but the opposite is true. Scientists can track the large objects and steer spaceships away from them. They cannot track the small objects, and they can't avoid what they can't track. You might think that small objects won't be a challenge. Another keyword, challenge. But they zip along at several miles per second. Several miles per second, not miles per hour, but miles per second. That's fast. At this speed, something less than a centimeter long might be able to punch through a spaceship's hull. One way to protect spaceships against junk is to give them stronger hulls. So one way, one solution that they have for this problem or challenge. But the best, so that was one way, but the best solution is to have less junk in orbit. Engineers are working on ways to leave less junk behind. They are also designing machines to remove junk from orbit. Hopefully, in the coming years, we will see less junk around our planet. So we already have the author's purpose is to tell us about space junk and how we can get rid of it. It's problem and solution, and the evidence we have for problem and solution is because it uses the word problem, challenge, one way, and solution. So we would put that in our chart on the following page. To tell how scientists are dealing with the problem of space junk, it is problem and solution. It uses the word problem and challenge, one way to protect, and solution. You can just use the words we circled. You don't have to use the whole phrases. On page 210, you are asked to explain how the text structure of each passage supports each author's purpose for writing. Use evidence to support your response. Your evidence can come from your chart because the evidence in our chart came from the passage. So in the first passage, the first victory of the space race, the author describes the events with chronological structure. He uses words such as time, when, and first. Also, 1954, July 1955, and 1958. Those were all key things that we circled. The structure supports the author's purpose, which is to tell about the events of the space race in order they happened. So their purpose is to describe the events, and the structure helps them to describe those events. The author of The Hazard of Space Junk organizes the information differently. He uses problem and solution. He first describes the problem that space junk poses to spaceships, and then he describes possible solutions using words such as problem, challenge, one way, and solution. The text structure supports the author's purpose of wanting to inform the reader of a problem and present possible solutions. So since his purpose is to say, hey, this is a problem in space and this is how we solve it, these are ways we solve it, that's why he uses problem and solution. The problem is space junk. The solution is you can either build stronger holes or get rid of it.